Hi everyone. I am not presenting all of the information that's in chapter 2. However, I do want to touch upon the MyPlate portion of the chapter. So please read the entire chapter, view the provided outline in Canvas, and the other readings and videos that go along with this information in chapter 2. So this chapter does cover some very interesting and important information. So as I mentioned on the previous slide, please read all of it. But it provides more information on nutrient and energy density that I introduced in the Module 1 presentation, including how to calculate these particular numbers. It discusses the dietary guidelines for Americans and physical activity guidelines for Americans, the current dietary food guidance system, MyPlate, and the A, B, C, D, E measurements used in nutritional assessment. And you can read what those letters mean within our chapter. It also discusses the categories of nutrient recommendations within the dietary reference intakes, and those can be confusing. And if you need additional help with those or clarification, just let me know. I'll be happy to go over it with you. And it also provides a great discussion on food labels, including the meaning of each category and what the numbers mean on the labels. And finally, how to ensure you are using reliable sources of nutritional information when choosing the foods that you consume. Now, for more than a century, nutritionists have been giving dietary advice to Americans. However, over time, the research base underlying these recommendations has expansively grown, and the first recommendations were published in 1894. And at that time, some vitamins and minerals had not even been discovered. But since then, scientific researchers have identified several vitamins and minerals essential to human health and have even determined the levels required to prevent nutritional deficiency diseases, such as, if you remember in our first presentation, the picture of the man who had beriberi. You will not generally see that, not in America anyway. Once many deficiency diseases were eliminated and there was better control over infectious diseases, nutrition research began to focus on the connection between excessive consumption of certain dietary components like fat, saturated fat, cholesterol, and sodium, and the risk for chronic health conditions. And as nutrition knowledge has expanded, recommendations have evolved to keep up with these findings. And interestingly enough, many early recommendations are quite similar to the ones that we see today. But on this slide, you can see a set of dietary recommendations from the 1940s. Then on the right side, we see the last guidance system prior to our current one, MyPlate. But this one was MyPyramid. You may or may not be familiar with it, especially if you were born in the last, say, 20 years. You probably don't remember it. But if you want to learn more about the history of the guidelines, I've provided a timeline article about the USDA food guides within our Module 2 learning materials. Now, our current dietary guidance system, MyPlate, was introduced in June 2011. MyPlate is a simple but powerful visual tool that breaks down healthy eating into 5 food groups: fruits, vegetables, grains, protein, and dairy. And by imagining a plate, like the one you see on the screen, divided into sections, individuals can easily plan balanced meals. For example, by filling half of your plate with fruits and vegetables ensures ample vitamins, minerals, and fiber, while a quarter allocated to grains and another quarter to protein provides energy and muscle support. Now, the inclusion of dairy or dairy alternatives ensures adequate calcium and vitamin D intake. So each food group in MyPlate plays a unique role in a balanced diet. Fruits such as strawberries, blueberries, and pomegranates, just for instance, add natural sweetness and antioxidants to our diets, and that supports our immune health greatly. Vegetables provide a wide array of vitamins, minerals, and fiber, especially with leafy greens like spinach, kale, and even romaine lettuce, and colorful vegetable varieties like bell peppers, eggplant, and carrots, which offer the most nutrients. But our next group is grains. So, grains, especially whole grains like oatmeal and brown rice, are excellent sources of complex carbohydrates for sustained energy. Now, the fourth group, protein, includes lean meats, beans, and nuts, and they're vital for muscle repair and overall growth. And we'll talk about all of these categories in future chapters in our textbook. Finally, I put this one by itself because it's a little bit different from the other groups, but the last group is dairy. Dairy products or fortified plant-based alternatives contribute calcium and vitamin D, essential for strong bones and teeth. So it doesn't necessarily mean you have to drink a glass of milk with every meal. It essentially means any food made from milk that retains its calcium content after processing. So keep in mind that this does not include foods like ice cream, sour cream, butter, and cream cheese, which have low calcium levels due to processing. There are those who don't consume dairy, and there are a variety of reasons for this. So, how do they meet the recommendations for this group? Well, fortified soy milk and yogurt, for instance, with added calcium, vitamin A, and vitamin D are part of the dairy group. Also, cheeses can meet that if you don't enjoy drinking dairy. And here's soy milk, just to remind you that that is something that meets this recommendation. But just to clarify, other milks, such as those made from rice, almond, coconut, or hemp, are not actually considered to be part of the dairy group because their nutritional makeup is not like that of dairy milk or fortified soy milk. Now, you can meet calcium recommendations by consuming other foods or juices with calcium, but they're just not considered part of the dairy group. So, how can you use MyPlate in your daily life? There are several easy ways once you're familiar with the MyPlate visual. You can use it for meal planning. Imagine a well balanced meal of grilled chicken, a side of quinoa, steamed broccoli, fresh orange slices, and a glass of low fat milk. You can also use MyPlate at the grocery store by using it to prioritize the purchase of whole foods, and it also can help you think about when you're reading labels to look for those things like hidden sugars or sodium. Finally, MyPlate is not rigid, so you can adapt it to your personal or cultural preferences. If you're lactose intolerant, you can try soy milk. If you're following a vegetarian diet, you can include more plant-based proteins rather than animal derived proteins. And there are many, many modifications that you can make. So while MyPlate is a great starting point, it's not perfect. It doesn't highlight healthy fats like those in avocados or nuts. Second, portion sizes are implied, but they're not detailed, so this can lead to confusion about how much of each food to actually eat, as people often have different perceptions of what constitutes a serving. So for me, a small bowl of cereal might be a perfect serving, while somebody else may add double the amount of cereal and think that that's a perfect serving for them. So some people can easily overeat by filling their plates too generously, even if they are following the MyPlate proportions. And finally, for some, access to healthy foods can be a significant barrier. For example, healthy foods can be more expensive than less healthy options, such as processed foods, and that's very, very unfortunate. But in fact, one study found that participants who followed the MyPlate diet spent about $29 more per week on food than those who didn't. Distance to grocery stores or lack of transportation can also make it difficult to get healthy food options. Even with these limitations, MyPlate is a helpful tool that we can adapt to our individual circumstances. Now, I included the photo on this slide to show how portion sizes have increased in size over the last 20 to 30 years. Supersized meals seem to be normal now, often enough to make 2 to 3 smaller meal portions. Now, just to pick out one example from this picture, you can see the hamburger sizes above, and many burgers are now more than 250 calories than the ones that were served just a few decades ago. And you can see the various sizes compared to one another from the 20 years ago to today, and what the difference in calories are between these products. So finally, I would like for you to visit the MyPlate website, www.myplate.gov, and click around to familiarize yourself with it, as it provides a good bit of information you may not know about otherwise, including some interactive tools, some pretty good recipes, and then some quizzes to test your nutritional knowledge. Also, if you're interested, you can download the MyPlate app to help you meet healthy eating goals and see your progress along the way. I've put the website that leads to more information within our Module 2 learning materials about that particular app. So, to wrap up, MyPlate is a practical visual guide to balanced eating, but it's not a one size fits all solution. It's a good foundation for building healthier habits. But I encourage you to apply your MyPlate principles to your meals, and don't hesitate to share this knowledge with friends and family. I recently held a very informal poll on social media with my own friends and family, just to see who was familiar with MyPlate or who had been to the website, and most were not even aware of MyPlate, even though it's been around since 2011. I was quite astonished by those results, really. But before we end, here are a few questions for you to ponder. How would you adapt MyPlate for someone with dietary restrictions? What challenges might people face when they follow MyPlate? And how does MyPlate compare to other dietary models like the Mediterranean diet? And that one is discussed within chapter 2. These are just some things to think about on your own time. And if you have any questions about any part of the chapter that I did not discuss here, or the information in this presentation, please contact me and I'd be happy to discuss any of it with you.